Some houses carry memories, not the kind you hang on walls or store in photo albums, the kind that seep into the walls themselves, the kind that breathe. This is the story of Mark, a man who moved into one such house, and what followed he could never explain, not fully. My name is not important. What is important is that every word you are about to hear is true. Chapter 1: The House. It was the summer of 2019. Mark had just transferred to a new city for work. He needed a place to stay, quickly, cheaply. A colleague told him about a house on the edge of town. Old, spacious, shockingly affordable. The landlord was an elderly man with nervous eyes. When Mark asked why the rent was so low, the old man smiled, a thin, practiced smile, and said, "The previous tenants moved on." Mark didn't ask where. The house was beautiful in a forgotten way. High ceilings, dark wooden floors, a courtyard in the center, open to the sky. But there was something else, a smell, faint but persistent, like wet earth and burnt hair. Mark told himself it was just the old walls. He told himself that a lot in those early days. Chapter 2: The First Night. The first night, Mark couldn't sleep. Not unusual, a new place, an unfamiliar bed. He lay in the dark, staring at the ceiling. Then, he heard it. A sound from the courtyard. Not wind, not an animal. Something rhythmic, like someone pacing. Step, 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 stop. Step, 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 stop. He went to the window. The courtyard was empty. The moonlight was flat and pale across the stone floor. Nothing there. And yet, the sound continued. He stood at that window for 20 minutes, watching the empty courtyard, listening to footsteps that belonged to no one. He went back to bed. He did not sleep. Chapter 3: It Begins. The second week, things changed. Mark began to notice shadows in his peripheral vision, always at the edge of sight, always gone when he turned to look. His food tasted different, metallic, wrong. He lost weight without trying. Then came the mirror. There was an old mirror in the hallway, tall, oval, framed in dark wood. Mark had walked past it every day, but one evening, he stopped, because the reflection was wrong. Not dramatically wrong, not a monster or a face behind him, just slightly off. His reflection was looking at him a half-second too late. He stood perfectly still. His reflection stood still too. Then he raised his right hand. His reflection raised its left. Mark ran out of the house that night. He sat in his car until sunrise, telling himself it was the light, telling himself he was tired. Chapter 4: The Truth. He told his colleague what was happening. The man went quiet. Then slowly he told Mark what he hadn't before. 3 families had lived in that house in the last 10 years. The first family left after their youngest child began speaking in a voice that wasn't his. A deep, hollow voice, speaking in a language no one recognized. The second family, a young couple, left after the wife woke up one night to find her husband standing in the corner of the room, facing the wall, not moving. He had no memory of it in the morning. The third family, they didn't leave. They were found one morning, all 3 of them, sitting in the courtyard, perfectly still, eyes open, staring at nothing. They were alive, physically unharmed, but none of them ever spoke again. Mark should have left that night. He knows that now. But something stopped him. A pull, a heaviness, like the house didn't want to let go. Chapter 5: The Encounter. That night, Mark decided to confront it. He had a friend, an old man from his hometown, who knew about these things, who knew about them. The ones who share our spaces without invitation. The ones older than memory. The man gave Mark specific instructions. He was not to speak after midnight. He was not to look directly into any reflective surface, and whatever he saw, whatever he heard, he was not to respond. Mark sat in the center of the courtyard at midnight, eyes forward, hands in his lap, silent. For a long time, nothing happened. Then the temperature dropped, sharply, suddenly. His breath became visible in the warm summer air. And then he felt it, a presence circling him slowly. He couldn't see it, but he could feel it. The way you feel eyes on your back in an empty room. Then a voice, low, ancient, close to his ear. "Why are you still here?" Mark did not answer. His hands were shaking. His eyes were burning, but he did not answer. The cold deepened. The voice came again, closer this time, almost gentle. Everyone else left. Mark closed his eyes, breathed slowly, and waited. At 3:17 in the morning, the cold lifted. The presence withdrew, and the courtyard was just a courtyard again. Mark moved out the next day. He never returned. He never looked for answers about what lived in that house. Some questions, he told me, are better left unasked. The house still stands. The rent is still low. And the landlord still smiles that thin, practiced smile when anyone asks about the previous tenants. They moved on. If you are watching this in the dark, I suggest you turn on a light. Not because of what I've told you, but because of what might be standing just behind you, right now, wondering if you noticed it yet. Sleep well.